So welcome again. Last day of the week, Friday, 8th of April. Because it's a Friday, we will be looking at the dollar index. We'll be looking at the US CAD, the Bitcoin against the dollar, and Ethereum against the dollar as well. Just a bit of the cryptocurrencies, and we might expand that aspect of it as well. So again, welcome. If you are watching us on YouTube, this is recorded for the Traders Club members. So if you are watching us on YouTube, this is released later. So bear in mind, if you see any trade setups or any trade opportunities, it might have gone past already. So make sure you check your charts before you jump into any trades. As usual, a quick disclaimer, any information shared in this video is not intended to be a trade recommendation. It is solely the opinion and views of myself, so please remember to do your own analysis prior to entering any trades. All right, so what we saw overnight was, yesterday the markets have been quite quiet, sitting in a relatively tight consolidation. We were sharing this with our Traders Club members during the night session last night. Identified a few trade ideas, hasn't triggered yet, but we did see the dollar gain some strength overnight. So looking into it, just checking out the news straight away. That's not news here. Checking out the news straight away on Forex Factory tonight, for Friday tonight, we do have the CAD employment change number. So a lot of news before that, but the focus for CAD today. So CAD employment change number, it was 336.6K, expected of 77.5. So I think we might see a relatively good number here. So about 70, maybe even 80K number. I think we might see employment change for the Canadians being quite positive, quite good. Because of that as well, why we got that, why we expect that number is because unemployment rate looking to go from a 5.5 to a 5.4%. So looking at an improvement on the unemployment rate for the CAD in this news release. So I'm expecting that 5.4. I think a 5.3 would be a bit of a surprise. I don't think it will happen, but I think there might be a bit of a surprise there. So that's the news for tonight, with the focus on the CAD. I think that if we do see that being released at that 77 to 80K number, if we do see at a 5.3 or 5.4 number there, we're going to see the CAD strengthen. We're likely to see the CAD strengthen at 8:30 GMT plus 8 tonight. But bear in mind that any news you jump into, any trades you jump into tonight, it is towards the end of the week. So especially with all the uncertainty happening globally right now, try not to hold your trades over the weekend. So I would say that this might be, you might approach this CAD news data release as a bit of a short-term trade, look to close out towards the end of the session. As we head towards the end of the week, let's look into what could happen next week. On Sunday, we do have the Eurozone French presidential election. So French election there might affect the euro dollar a little bit. Euro dollar now sitting at this 1.0857 level, looking like it might have further downside. I'll tell you a bit more about that shortly. With that, Monday next week, we do have some pound numbers. GDP month on month, we spoke about that already. So, no big surprises there. Tuesday, we're back to the US CPI numbers, right? So as I was sharing with you yesterday and club members last night as well, the FOMC meeting minutes released on Thursday morning highlighted more focus towards the inflationary numbers for the US. If we do see it continue to climb towards the upside for inflation in the US, we might see the FOMC take on a little bit more of an aggressive approach towards their rates decision. So this will be quite an important news here. Tuesday next week at 8:30, CPI number would coincide with our Tuesday night session for club members, so we can look at that live together. Interestingly, is next week as well. On Wednesday, we do have the RBNZ rate statement and rates decision. right? So we might be looking, I think that we're looking that it might hold rates, but we might be looking at maybe a surprise rate hike from the RBNZ as well. So pay attention to that on Wednesday next week. I'll tell you more about that on Monday as well, but this could present some good trading opportunities there. Current cash rate at 1% from the RBNZ. Again, next week, inflationary number for the UK at a very high point now, 6.2% year on year. We might see this creep up slightly, which could trigger further Bank of England rates increase. So bear in mind for that. And then on to Wednesday next week as well, CAD, right? So the focus for today, CAD rates, overnight rates currently at 0.5%, but there has been expectation. You can see here, big banks, big Canadian banks expect a 50 basis point rate hike at this release here. So we might be seeing the Bank of Canada increase rates from 0.5% to 1% for this news decision here. If we do see that happen, then we're going to see the CAD strengthen quite significantly leading up to this news event, right? Or at the release of this news event. But bear in mind, just scrolling back again, this is going to happen right after the US inflationary number. So we might see, what I'm gathering here is we might see if CPI numbers for the US does increase, we might see the CAD, the dollar strengthen against the CAD. And then on Wednesday night, we might see the CAD turn back down because of this rates increase. If it does come out at that 50 basis points towards that 1%, then we'll see the CAD strengthen. Bear in mind, with this news as well, we do have the press conference accompanying the rate statements and the rate decision. Following from that, we do have employment change numbers for Australia. So I'll tell you about that on Monday. ECB monetary policy statements and rates decision, press conference, US retail sales numbers. And then on Friday, Good Friday, take a break. It's going to be quite quiet, it's going to be absolutely quiet on Friday. So we do have a lot of news next week, a lot of central bank news next week with the Bank of Canada, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, and some inflationary numbers coming from the UK and the US. So I think that markets have been since yesterday and possibly today sitting in a bit of a consolidation leading up to possibly that higher volatility into next week. So if you haven't found any big trade ideas, any easy trade ideas for this week, fret not. I think that next week we're going to see more volatility, possibly a lot more trading opportunities from that point on, right? So with that, what we are looking at here, the dollar index, yesterday I was saying that it was sitting and testing that 99.50 level just last night. I'll show you this on H1 time frame. Just last night, we were talking about this, testing this level, and we're looking for it to bounce up towards that 100 level. At this point right now, what we've seen is the dollar on the H4 time frame, dollar index on H4 time frame, strengthening from that 99.50 level now towards that 99.80. I'm looking for the dollar to reach that 100 level, the 100 round number level. So it looks like we might see it climb up, right, for today, slightly for today, possibly towards that 99.90 at the most. I don't think you hit 100 today or towards the end of the week now. I think that we might see the dollar hit that 100 level next week, especially if we do see the inflation number getting stronger, which could push the dollar towards the upside. So with that in mind, we're looking at dollar strength into next week, mid next week. We're looking at the CAD rates possibly increasing tonight with employment change numbers coming from the CAD, possibly looking at a better employment number. What we could anticipate here for the US CAD on the H4 time frame is it's currently sitting at this 1.2591 level, right? I really like how the US CAD has been moving, as I've been repeating over and over and over again. This 1.25 level for the US CAD, you can see that it's dropped whenever it comes down towards that 1.25 level. We've seen it test several times before rebounding quite strongly. So same thing now, it's tested, it's come down, it's tested once, it's broken up, it's tested twice already. I'm looking for the US CAD to gain further strength, primarily because of that dollar strength, right? So I'll zoom in a little bit here, make it a bit easier to see. So with the US CAD at this point, this 1.2591 level, I'm looking for the US CAD to track higher towards the 1.2621 level. That's with, from now towards the news tonight, we're looking for that dollar strength. That dollar strength will push the US CAD towards the upside. But with the expected employment numbers, stronger employment numbers coming from the Canadians, what I would be looking for in terms of a trade idea will be for selling opportunities at this resistance level. So I'll be looking to sell if it hits and turns down. Let's say at this point here, if it hits and turns down, you would have a very tight stop loss at about 15 to 20 pips stop loss here. Take profit level, first take profit could be a 40 pip, a 1:2 risk reward ratio towards the downside if it rejects that 1.2621 level. So just to illustrate it out a little bit, we're looking for the CAD to move towards the upside now because of that dollar strength, but with the news release, looking for it to reject this resistance level, same like what it did here. So climb up, hit that level and turn down towards that 1.2571. So I'm looking for a repeat here, move up, reject that level and turn down. From this point on, I think that if it does turn down to this level, it'll move it into next week. So I'll tighten this up a little bit. Okay, so I'll put it there. So from this point on into next week, we might be looking at it to bounce back up because of that stronger dollar again coming back into effect. But overall, I'm looking for the US CAD to sell down if they do increase rates by that 50 basis point mid next week. There are several trade ideas here you could be looking out for into next week. You could be looking at, again, to sell down from this point, tight stop. But I would say that next week you would have a bigger take profit level towards 100 pips, towards that 1.25 level again, given that we see the Bank of Canada increase rates by that 50 basis point, or even if they do take on any rate increases, we're likely to see that track down. So first trade idea here, immediate trade idea will be for tonight, looking to sell down because of the rejection of that resistance level, and also with a stronger employment number coming from the CAD. And then if it does come down to this point, get out, wait till next week. We're looking for a rebound, or if it does break that point, you can look to sell. The second trade idea will be into mid next week. You can look for a rejection of that 1.2622 level again, or a breakdown of that 1.2571 level, looking for the US CAD to track back towards the 1.25. And then from that point, we'll talk about it again there. So US CAD, I'm still looking for that selling opportunity. I wouldn't look to buy the US CAD yet, just because of the way it's been performing. That big downward move since the mid of March, since early March, we've seen it track lower. Now with that rebound, I'm still looking for that selling opportunity. So that's for the CAD. Now doing a quick review of what we've just been looking at before I get into the cryptocurrencies. Yesterday we shared about the Euro Yen. So yesterday's Euro Yen was interesting because we had that both buying and selling opportunity. Now, a quick review again. Last night we were talking about it. Hey, if it did break higher, could we see it move up? What happened was it traded within that support level, that range, that zone there. Now looking that is broken lower, we're looking at a rebound. I don't think you would have jumped into that trade because it happened quite early this morning, but looking for that rebound to turn lower. Why am I expecting it to turn lower? It's primarily because of how the euro dollar is moving. So remember, I was just telling you about the French election. Over the weekend, we might see the euro dollar track lower from this point, right? We might see a euro dollar track lower towards that 1.0790 level, track lower there. So if the euro dollar does drop, then we might see it drag the euro yen down as well. Again, a quick update. If you got into that trade on the euro dollar, you might be looking at another trade opportunity back down for the euro dollar down towards the 107.92 level. All right. So just doing a little bit extra instead of just the CAD, we're looking at the euro dollar and also the euro yen. With that, now looking at Bitcoin, the last time I spoke about this last week, I was anticipating for it to break that 44,593 level. It didn't do that. It actually bounced up back towards the range, and now it's actually broken that point. What I would anticipate for Bitcoin at this point will be further upside. Will be for it to test higher, possibly break that 44.74 level, but overall still looking at that downward move again. So I think it was going to go up, test that level, and then break towards the downside again. So just be a little bit wary if you are looking to buy into the longer term. I think that we might see some value later, not right now. If it bounces up, look for the retrace before buying into the longer term. If you're trading, straightforward, I think that we might see it come back up to test that 44,574 or even that 45,000 level towards the upside. And Ethereum looking a lot more straightforward. It's dropped, it's hit that 3,190 level, bouncing back up now. I think that there was some news, but I don't really follow the news too much on Ethereum. I think that we might see that track higher towards that 3,388 level. So I'm looking at further upside, a slight deviation from Bitcoin. I think that we might see Ethereum push higher towards that 3,388 resistance level. So cryptocurrencies aside, if you are trading cryptocurrencies, be extra careful. A lot of volatility there, but we see big percentage moves over a short term. But I think that if you are looking at FX and Forex there, then the focus for today, CAD, looking at some volatility later or early this evening with the news release. I think that we might see a lot more movements into next week, but I think the focus for me, especially today in the afternoon, will be the euro dollar and then leading into the CAD into the night. So with that said, make sure you trade well, trade safe. Take care now. Have a good weekend as well. Bye-bye.